A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Jesus, son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in his answer to her. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus homage, saying, "Jesus, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." He said, "Please, Jesus, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her and replied, "Oh, woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. This is the story about our brother Jesus.
Praise to you, Jesus Christ.
Many of you remember this. In 2017, Senator Elizabeth Warren was speaking on the Senate floor during the debate over Jeff Sessions' nomination for Attorney General. How much has happened since then? She began by reading a letter by Coretta Scott King, who had expressed serious concerns about Sessions years earlier. Warren was warned to stop, and then finally, formally silenced. Explaining the decision afterwards, the ever elusive Senator Mitch McConnell said she was warned. She was given an explanation. Nevertheless, he persisted. That phrase quickly became something larger than that moment. It became a way of naming what women, and especially those speaking uncomfortable truth, have often had to do. To persist when dismissed, continue when silenced, keep speaking when the room would rather move on. And that is exactly what we see in today's gospel story. The Canaanite woman cries out for her daughter. The disciples want Jesus to send her away because she keeps calling out after us. She is warned by silence, pushed back by exclusion, and met with a boundary that says, in effect, "This mercy is not for you." Nevertheless, he persisted. This Canaanite woman did not view God as an economy of scarcity, meant only for the Jews, mercy only for the chosen few. But enough of God's mercy to go around. Enough for her daughter and for all of God's children. She is not asking Jesus for charity. She's demanding to be seen as already belonging to the mercy of God. And because she persisted, the circle widened. Her voice helped reveal that God's mercy was never meant to stop at the borders of tribe, religion, gender, or belonging. Like every person who refuses to be erased, she teaches us that faithful persistence can become holy resistance. And sometimes it is the voice from the margins that helps to widen the whole community and help the community to see the gospel more clearly. While most of us can recognize the mama bear in the Canaanite woman who is simply advocating for her daughter who is gravely ill, we would all hope to fight hard for our children if they were dying. It's a little harder to recognize Jesus, who teaches us about the dignity in every person, and then references this woman from across the border as a dog. It is one of those gospel passages where we may find ourselves asking not what is Jesus teaching, but what is Jesus learning? At first, Jesus is annoyed. He swats her away like a gnat, dismisses her as not the kind of person he was sent to minister to. But then as she persists, Jesus sees a quality in her that he defines as faith. What was it that qualified as a sign of faith in her behavior? Perhaps Jesus called her a woman of great faith because he saw what everyone else in the scene was missing. The disciples saw a nuisance. Society's religious boundary determined she was an outsider. The Jesus inherited mission said, not yet, not you. But the Canaanite woman saw a deeper truth. If God is truly merciful, the mercy cannot be fenced in. Her faith it's not passive agreement, it is active trust. She believed so deeply in the wideness of God's goodness that she was willing to challenge even the boundaries she hears from Jesus. And in that moment, Jesus recognized in her not presumption, but revelation. This woman already knows that the table of God is larger than anyone else had admitted. Friends, here we have a woman preaching the gospel, for the church knew what to do with women who preach. She proclaims with her persistence and her wit that God's mercy is wider than the boundaries being defended around it, and Jesus does not silence her. He receives her word. He praises her faith and lets her voice widen the mission. Some of you may have seen a video that is circulating these days of a Muslim man who quietly entered St. Peter's Basilica in Rome recently and knelt to pray. I caught it on a Catholic thread where people were outraged, as if this man on his knees pointed towards Mecca and bowing in reverence to Allah was somehow sacrilegious. Not in our house. The video was called Rage Bait by one viewer, and indeed it served that purpose as the ugliness of Catholic Islamophobia was on full display. To some, that image may have felt startling, but through the lens of Isaiah, it looks less like an intrusion and more like a living parable. My house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. This vision also speaks directly to what Pope Leo recently taught us, urging Christians and Muslims to rediscover compassion and empathy as a shared spiritual responsibility, calling both communities to revive humanity where it has grown cold and to transform indifference into solidarity. Like the woman in our gospel story, Pope Leo has pushed back against fear-based attitudes towards Islam, saying that Catholics should look for ways to promote authentic dialogue, respect, and friendships with Muslims, rather than allowing suspicion to define the relationship. The Canaanite woman teaches the church that faith is not only believing in God's mercy, it is insisting that God's mercy be made available for everyone, just as they are. Jesus did not ask this woman to become anyone other than who she was. He simply honored that which she was, person of faith, a child of God. In light of Isaiah's promise that God's house is the house of prayer for all people, Pope Leo's words remind us that the stranger at the edge of our religious imagination may not be a threat to faith, but an invitation to enlarge it. The woman in today's gospel stands exactly there, as if she too stepped into St. Peter's and pleaded with God outside the expected boundaries, yet carrying a faith that helps to reveal the wideness of God's mercy. May we have the faith of the Canaanite woman, faith bold enough to speak, persistent enough to stay, and trusting enough to believe that God never intended faith to be only for a select few. And may we become the kind of community where no one has to beg for crumbs, because all are truly and authentically welcomed as guests at the table of God. Amen.